Welcome into another exciting edition of Locked On 76ers. He's Keith Pompey, your Sixers beat writer extraordinaire for Inquirer.com. I'm Marc Farzetta. 76ers right now, 10 games into the season and ahead of round 3 already against the Boston Celtics. We're going to measure your expectations as they compare to before the season and right now with the Sixers sitting at 6-4 on the year. We'll talk about that and more on this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we do thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network out there. Again, he's Keith Pompey. I'm Marc Farzetta. Keith, we had talked about expectations a lot before the season, what was fair to say about the 76ers. There are certainly things that they have excelled at this year that I did not expect them to be ready for. But as of right now, are the Sixers exceeding your expectations, matching your expectations, or falling far below the standard that you set mentally in the offseason?
You know, it's a great question because when you look at it, when you look at the 76ers and you talk about the exciting wins that they had, right? Starting off 4-0. Max, the way that Maxey is playing and everything, you will say they are exceeding expectations, right? You would say that. But then when you look at it and you realize that, okay, the 76ers have only played 3 teams with winning records. They've only, they lost all those games, right? They lost 1 game to the Boston Celtics. So you say to yourself, like, they're not really exceeding expectations. I think that this is the way it should be. Because we talked about it as if we thought that the 76ers would be battling for the 6th and 7th seed. Through 10 games, they're the 7th best team, right? They're 6-4. They played 3 teams with winning records, and they lost it. So when we look at it, you're like, wow, this is what it should be. But however, when you look at it, you get a little – say to yourself, like, but if it wasn't for a couple miscues, they should have beaten those teams, at least 2 of them. I mean, they should have defeated the Chicago Bulls. They could have defeated the Detroit Pistons. Like, they were in a chance. They had a chance to do that. So when you look at it, you say to yourself, well, the last couple of games, they lowered expectations a little bit. But when you go through 10 and you look at 6-4, it's about the same. It's about the same. It has to be.
Yeah, it is crazy, though, to go back to your point about Tyrese Maxey right now being second in the league in scoring with 33.2 points per game, tied for 4th, really, in 3 points made per game at 4.1, tied for 6th right now, or actually even at 6th, alone at 6th, assists per game, 8.2. Hell yeah, that's exceeding my expectation. Also, taking a look at Joel Embiid and just seeing the fact that he's already played in 6 games this year while averaging just under 20 points per game. Really, the first game of the season is what screwed over his points per game average. But he's at just about 20 points per game in those 6 games so far this year. Yes, that exceeds my expectation. Andre Drummond playing as well as he has played, especially as of late, logging 35 minutes with a triple-double like that. That has exceeded my expectations. Certainly, VJ Edgecombe, for the most part, has exceeded my expectations. 3-point shooting, 3-point percentage has really come back down to earth. That's been about what I expected in his last 4 games from 3. That's more of what I expected to see him do from beyond the arc. But, yeah, the bottom line is there might be guys that are a pleasant surprise or guys that are healthier before you thought, Paul George excluded, of course. But overall seeding, you're a 6th seed, a 7th seed. That's about where we had them leading up to the year, talking about a team that would be maybe just on the cusp of being a straight-up playoff team and avoid the play-in tournament, or be a team that would be headed to the play-in tournament. So individually speaking, yes, guys have exceeded expectations, but as a team, I think they're right on par with where most people had them.
Yeah. I mean, they are right on par with most people had them. But again, is we look at it and with a couple breaks here and there, we're talking about Paul George has yet to play yet, like what you said. When you factor all that stuff in, you're like, man, it could be better. I mean, it really could be better. But the things that they did. Now, here's the crazy part, because when you talk about Tyrese Maxey, right, and we talk about this season, just so people can have a pretty good idea of it, you talked about Tyrese Maxey averaging what? 33.2 points and 8.2 assists, right? So
Yeah.
the 76ers let people know, when was it, after their game 2 days ago, that Tyrese Maxey and Allen Iverson were the only players to have scored at least, what was it, like 25 points and like 5 assists through their first 10 games to start the season, right? At least that. But then when I looked it up, I tried looking it up, and I'm trying to figure out, has there been any player to average at least 33 points and 8 assists through their first 10 games of the season? And no matter where I look, I'm not getting that from anywhere. Like, Tyrese Maxey is the only player to do that. And when we look at that year that Allen Iverson had such a phenomenal season, that we were talking about, him and Maxey being the only two to put up these numbers. Now, AI, this is crazy. We're talking AI, Allen Iverson. So through the first 10 games of that year, Allen Iverson averaged 32 points. Maxey is 33.2. Allen Iverson averaged 7.9 assists. Tyrese Maxey is 8.2. So Maxey is having a better season than AI has. Now listen, from 3, Allen Iverson, during those games, Allen Iverson shot 26.7% from 3. Maxey is shooting 44.1. So this, and I'm trying to get it confirmed, but this may be the best start in NBA history. I mean, it just may be. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it may be one of the best starts when I'm talking about as a points and assists start. So when you talk about that, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it makes you want to be better than 6-4, that's for sure. But when you talk about individual performance, I know absolutely. But Keith, this is something we talked about a lot, and mostly when we would see comments, people chime in after the show or whatever like that, either during or after. Maxey ain't that guy. I know the score doesn't reflect it or the record doesn't reflect it as much as you want it to, but Maxey has absolutely been up to the challenge. The two best surprises, if you can call it that, this year is not only Joel Embiid playing, but Joel Embiid at least mostly in his offensive game looking as good as he has looked in the first 6 games of the year. And then the other is Tyrese Maxey. This guy is a shoe-in all-star, and we've already talked about the way too early MVP conversation that he has to be in. People were like, this guy is not going to make that leap. He's already peaked. That's where he's going to be at. And, good for him to get to the high level that he's been at and even being an all-star one time to this point. But he has absolutely taken it beyond that. So here's, I think, where a fair assessment comes in, Keith. And you tell me if this is crazy or not. I feel even though they're at 6-4, if you would have told me they were 6-4, even before the season started, to start out the year, and all this has happened with Joel Embiid and Maxey played well. If you're telling me they're 6-4, but I'm watching the way they're playing now at 6-4, my feeling is they're only going to get better. I don't feel like they've played their best basketball already. I mean, these are still guys that a lot of these guys have to get used to playing with one another. Trenton Watford is just back into the swing of things, or just in the swing of things for the first time as a member of the Sixers. VJ Edgecombe, I think he's going to refigure out how he's got to go about attacking the rim and be a scorer again. But my feeling is they're only 6-4. Yeah, they've lost to teams that have winning records and all that. They've taken that on the chin. But this is a better team overall than I expected to see in the first 10 games of the season. And it makes me really look forward to, let's just say, the last 10 games of the season for where this team could be by season's end. They are exceeding my expectations so far this year.
Yeah, they are. And just to let people know, that Allen Iverson team that he had through 10 games, they were 6-4 as well.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, they were 6-4 as well too. But so when you look at that, you say to yourself, like, he's an elite company, and you are right. I mean, they're 6-4. Joel, now the problem is that team did finish 35-37 at the end of the season. It was one of those shortened seasons at 72 games. I think that was like strike year or something like that or whatever. But anyway, so something happened 2005-6. But anyway, the thing is, when you look at it, you are correct. I mean, Joel is showing improvement, but he's still not the guy that you want. We talk about he hasn't played against some of the, he hasn't played against the Orlando Magic. He hasn't played against who was it? The last one, the Cleveland Cavaliers. He missed 2 other games. But with that being said, you look at it and you say, you know what, all things considered, they are performing well. They have yet to bring in Paul George. I mean, one guy who we felt like who was a major factor early on missed 8 games, Dominic Barlow, right? So, there's a lot to learn about this team, and it can only get better. And the good part is those games where I say you get a little bit, when you start thinking like, maybe they could be better, is because even though all besides the Cleveland game, they had a chance to win every other game that they were in. I mean, every game. Now, the one thing they need to work on, they got to do a better job of closing out games, though. They have to do a better job of that. But for the most part, I mean, we can look at it and say, you know what? Right now, in all honesty, they are 6-4. They could be 9-1. Seriously. The only loss that they should have that you could say that could have been a definite loss that they should have lost was that Cleveland game. And then when you look at that, you say that they were out. Joel, Jared McCain didn't play. We haven't seen Paul George. So, yeah, when you factor that in, this team is better than what their record says right now.
Yeah. And also in this opening segment, I do want to tell you that this show is brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNBA, and get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. When we come back, Keith Pompey, I want to talk about some Sixers stocks. We did this in Summer League. We did this in preseason, a little bit scattered about the offseason, but I do want to talk to you about whose stock could be up, whose stock could be down. For guys not named Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, we'll talk about all that and more when we return. This is Locked On 76ers. And right now, let me tell you about FanDuel. Hopefully, you guys are having a great time with FanDuel and all they have to offer. Like right now, new customers can get $300 in bonus bets when you hit your first $5 bet on FanDuel. So head over to FanDuel.com, download the app at FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app. And even if you missed the start of the game and you want to ride a hot hand, let's say, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, again, FanDuel customers, new FanDuel customers, can earn $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play at FanDuel.com, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And right now I want to tell you about Mint Mobile. How about taking advantage of these offers from Mint Mobile? If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. And I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for just $15 a month. What? Yeah, $15 a month. Mint makes it simple. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep your same number and contact. So ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time. A new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may vary above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. That's Mint Mobile for details. Stock up, stock down, Keith Pompey. I'm going to start with a stock up, I think. Trendon Watford, that guy that we talked about coming over from the Nets, a guy you had talked about as, okay, just picture a slower Ben Simmons. I feel like he has absolutely been that guy. And oh, yeah. And And even Joel Embiid at his locker after the Raptors game, after the Raptors win, where he got a triple-double, Trent and Watford did, kind of reminded me of Ben Simmons out there, with the triple-double and all the assists and making all those plays happen. Yeah, that's who it reminded me of. I think you talk about anybody from beginning of the season to now, stock up. I think Trent and Watford has absolutely been that dude.
Yeah, he actually has been. And, the funny part is, I know he played 25 games. He had played 37. Excuse me. He played 25 minutes. He played 37 minutes the night before when he had the triple-double. I'm talking, but then the next night, in the loss of Detroit, he was only on the floor for 25. To me, I'm saying to myself, like, yo, Nick, what you doing, bruh? What you doing? Like, we just saw what this guy did the night before. Like, we got to get him out there. Now, I get it. Granted, he made 8 of 10 shots the first night. He was 3 for 8 the second night. But he only had 2 assists, and we're saying only. He had 3 rebounds, right? But I'm telling you, man, he's a guy that, you got to keep him in the plan. Like, no matter what. He brings it, and guys love playing for him. Like, when you got a guy like him, we're talking about stock up. When you got a guy and everybody know he's a willing passer, right? Dudes are going to hustle their tails off to get open because they know that he's going to see him and they're going to want to play. You know what I mean? But the thing that he showed us that one night against the Toronto Raptors, look, bro, you got to play him. You got to play him. I mean, you got to play him more than, in my opinion, 25 minutes.
All right. Is he a starter? In the time that Paul George is here, do you have him as a starter?
That's the crazy part because I want to say yes, but at the same time, we're looking at Kelly Oubre. So who do you take off the floor? Like, there may be some people saying, okay, well, VJ has been struggling as of late, so maybe you could take VJ off the floor. But do you really want to take VJ off the floor? Like, I mean, do you really? And when we look at Kelly Oubre is having a phenomenal season that no one is really talking about, right? And Kelly Oubre has drew the assignment of guarding a lot of times the other team's best offensive player. Right? A lot, right? So at least he switches on to that person and helps guard that person. So it's like right now, Kelly just brings so much to the team to whereas if that's a tough decision that the coach has to make because I like what Trendon brings. I really do. But Kelly brings more on the defensive side, stuff that you're going to need. But that doesn't mean that Trendon doesn't come in and then he, he'll play a lot of minutes. The problem is this team might be a little bit too deep, man. They may have too many players who need who warranted a lot of minutes because so that's the problem. But I do think that his passing ability that will cut down some of those turnovers, right? He's been getting he's getting like 1-2 turnovers a game. But I'd rather have him have the ball in his hands than Quentin Grimes at certain times. And I like what Quentin does, but he's just been turning the ball over. So, yeah, I would really like to see what Wofford can do with more minutes.
Yeah, Grimes, especially in the second half, I don't trust him as a ball handler. I don't trust him a little bit. Gets a little skittish, especially when it comes to almost forcing passes or trying to control a dribble like the last time they played the Celtics in the end of the game. But I love the starting lineup of what they were able to do. And it didn't start out well against the Raptors. Sixers got beat up pretty bad in that first quarter. They allowed 43 points, so that's where the defense really takes a hit. But Kelly Oubre was still in that starting lineup. I think you can have those guys coexist. And you could also have a guy that is not afraid to be that facilitator that we talk about so much in what Trent and Watford can bring to the table. As far as a stock down, now Dominic Barlow was a guy that was looking like he was going to be a starter for you. And then arm laceration. Still waiting for when you can see him again. Adem Bona seems to have fallen out of favor when it comes to anybody really threatening to come off the bench as a star, or excuse me, to be a starter when Joel Embiid's out, or be a guy to be the first off the bench.
Yeah, do you think his stock is? It's kind of weird because
I think it's taking a hit. If it's gone anywhere, I think it's gone down.
But you know what? It's kind of like it's weird because it was one of those things where when I looked at it, remember when we talked about him in the preseason, and I was like, I like him, but I'm a little concerned on how he's going to play against certain players. And he gets in foul trouble a little bit too much. He overreacts. He does things. And then all of a sudden, he had his own personal block party, right? It's
Yes.
like killing everybody's shot.
Yeah.
So then you got excited. And to me, it's just, I think he's still his stock is going down since, I would say, the Washington game, right? When they opened up, I believe they were 3-0 at that point. But at the same time, I do think that it's one of those things where he still has to go through a learning curve and realize you can't reach all the time. You can't do this, you can't do that. But so his stock has definitely gone down. Justin Edwards' stock is going down too, man. Like, and I get it. He comes in, makes a couple threes, he does stuff. But it's one of those things where, and I know he's putting in a lot of work with Maxey and all these other guys, but he seems like a guy to me whose stock has really dropped since last year. Jared McCain hasn't looked too good in those 2 games either, but 2 games isn't a big enough sample size either, though.
Yeah. One thing I will say going back to Bona is that, I think his stock has gone down, but seeing Drummond play, I guess that toe yoga worked in the offseason, Keith. I don't know. I'll have to try it sometime. But Andre Drummond, I never heard of that. It's the only time I ever heard of toe yoga, but there you go. Andre Drummond, I think his stock has risen, and his stock rising the way it has, I think, over the last couple of games has made Adem Bona just his stock look like it's lowered a little bit more than it actually has. But I think that's just in comparison there. I do want to talk about round 3 coming up here tonight. You got an 8:00 tip-off. This game will be on NBC against the Boston Celtics already this early in the season. Keith Pompey facing the Boston Celtics thrice for the 3rd time already. We'll talk about that matchup tonight, what we want to see from the 76ers, and what you can expect as a 76ers fan in the game tonight. All right, we'll be back after this. Is Locked On 76ers and the Locked On 76ers YouTube channel. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. And right now, I'm going to tell you about Robinhood. Robinhood. Take advantage of Robinhood. With Robinhood, you can talk about helping all your financial needs. Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. You play for the win, not just on game day, but every day, locking in on every opening, beating your personal record, beating it again and again. Channel that drive now into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks, ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood's Legends Advanced Tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with the tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, so expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Robinhood.com/yourmoney. And now I got to tell you about the Game Time app. You want to get into the game, the concert, the comedy show, Game Time has you covered, especially this basketball season as it's officially upon us. Nothing beats being in the arena. You hear the squeak of the sneakers, the swoosh, go through the hoop, all that. Listen to the guys own the boards and all that. Game Time can put you right there in the action. Game Time comes in for all of that. The app gives you fans the advantage, as a matter of fact. It's the ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I love that you can actually see what you pay for. You can actually look at the seat's vantage point before you buy the seat. So you literally take the guesswork out of buying tickets, and their zone deals are a real game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save big. You can even find NBA tickets for under $25. You got kids, you want to go to a game like that, you got tickets for you right there. Very affordable. Take guesswork out of buying the NBA tickets with the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, and all that right now is with the Game Time app. Boston Celtics already, Keith. They're 1-1 this season against the Boston Celtics, and their 2 previous matchups already in the books. What can we expect from the Sixers tonight taking on Boston?
We can expect an exciting game. I'm just going to say that. I mean, we're going to expect a exciting game. The funny part is, it's like the Celtics are kind of sort of like the Sixers, where they were kind of like came into the season as an enigma. Like no one knew really what to expect from them, what they had. You knew they had Jaylen Brown, but you wanted to know if Peyton Pritchard could step up and be a starter and this and that. And this team is crazy, weird. Like, and what I mean by that is, so they beat the Sixers, and then they go and then they lose 3 of their next 4 games, right? They lose to the Rockets by 27. They go and they lose to the Jazz. I mean, both of those games were at home. Then they go and they boat race the Wizards, but then they split 2 games with the Magic on the road. They lose the first game by 13, and then they have a hard-fought 4-point victory in the last game. So this team is like, they're still trying to figure things out. But what we do know is, it's kind of like, if I'm Joel Embiid, I'm extremely motivated, right? Because, the first time I played these guys, I looked really bad. The second time I looked better, right? But when we look at it, we're talking about these centers that they have. Neemias Queta should not be on the floor with Joel. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's probably having a career year, averaging 8.6, 7.9 rebounds. He's played in the Sixers a total of 8 games, averaging 4 points and 4.3 rebounds in those games. Now he's done it in 11 minutes, so that's kind of impressive. But at the same time, this has to be one of those guys where Joel says, you know what, if I am going to be back to being the same guy I am, I got to destroy this guy. Now, do it in the flow of the game, but you need to destroy this dude. And, that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. How does Joel Embiid play tonight against the Celtics?
Well, let's get crazy because Fresh Prince 215 says Embiid should drop 40 or 50 tonight. There you go.
Yeah.
That'll be some kind of record if he plays 20 minutes and does that.
Yeah, he should. But my thing is, my thing is, I want to see. I don't want to see VJ Edgecombe at the 3-point line like this, Fresh Prince. Like, I don't want to see him doing that. I want to see VJ Edgecombe in the game. That's what I want to see.
For the people,
Joel, he dominate now. He could do
one of
podcast.
Those.
Yes, for the people on the podcast, I was standing up, holding my hands, like leaning over with my hands on my knees, stuff like that, Or, what I mean? Or I don't want to see Tyrese Maxey like this. Like, go ahead, Joel.
Just lounging. I'm going to take a nap. Joe, you take it.
Do it in the flow of the game, big fella.
You got 28 minutes. You get 28 minutes tonight. Let's go crazy. Come on. We don't need to get 30 just yet. Just more than 26. That's all we're asking. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. And, by the way, let me ask you this officially. First off, Don Barlow, is he okay? What's going on there?
I don't know, man. They said, like, I remember, and they were talking about, I guess, he had, it was one of those things where he was supposed to have a surgery. Then we thought he had it that morning, but he had it later on that night. He's been around. I mean, I don't know if everything went the way that it should go. But yeah, it's bad. And it's also sad for him, right? Because I was looking at him as a guy who really could have contributed and do things. So now you're looking at it, when you're not available, people tend to overtake you. Mm-hmm. You may not get those opportunities again. I mean, the one thing that he had going over him was that Jabari Walker wasn't knocking down shots. Well, the last game that they played, Jabari Walker hit 2 threes, his first 2 threes of the season. And they said they're going to do. He's doing the hustling. So, and then now you got Trendon Watford playing. Paul George may come back whenever he comes back, right? So what does that do for Don Barlow? It's just crazy.
Yeah. It's bonkers, my friend. I know you'll be down there tonight for the 76ers, covering the 76ers for Inquirer.com as they take on the Boston Celtics at 8:00. Keith Pompey, Marc Farzetta, thank you very much for watching and listening to Locked On 76ers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, newly minted. Proud to be a part of it. So make sure you guys add to it by liking, subscribing, downloading, and all that type jazz. throughout the rest of the season and, of course, the offseason. Make sure you guys check out our friend Josh Lloyd for Locked On Fantasy Basketball. He can help you not only win your league, but also make you the smarter NBA fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. For Keith Pompey, I'm Marc Farzetta. Like and subscribe, Locked On 76ers. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. See you then. Bye.